When you talk about all the things that have been spread, there is this officer, I hate mentioning his name, a former officer who is a far right wing, who's been doing the interviews and has been saying, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not even going to comment on Brandon Tatum. No.
What do you think of that, Ben or Elmore or Christine?
Yeah, we are happy with anybody who wants to share the objective to get into the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells.
You want unity, but you not talking to nobody and you just making up lies. Sometimes the greatest acts of heroism doesn't happen on the battlefield. They happen inside an ordinary home. That's what the film Our Crossroads is about. This is an inspiring true story set in rural Ohio in 1969 about a young couple who gets a life-changing calling. 6 orphan siblings are at risk of being separated, and this couple says, no, we're not letting tragedy break this family apart. That's faith in action. Not just talking about love, living it, sacrificing for it, choosing purpose over convenience. And this story is told through a modern-day photographer who is wrestling with his own faith and learning that one act of selfless love can change generations. This is the kind of movie that restores your faith in humanity. It's about family, courage, compassion, redemption, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Join the Angel Guild to stream Our Crossroads today and help bring more stories of family, faith, courage, and hope to audiences around the world. Let me get to Don Lemonhead and Nolan's mother. I'm gonna be respectful to his mama. But I do have criticisms. When you watch this video, you're gonna see why I have criticisms. Roll the clip.
When you talk about all the things that have been spread, there is this officer, I hate mentioning his name, a former officer who is a far right wing, who's been doing the interviews and has been saying, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not even going to comment on Brandon Tatum. No.
Time out. Do you guys find that kind of suspicious or interesting that Don Lemon said, I'm not going to mention his name? Fair enough. If you don't want to give a person publicity, if you don't believe they're legitimate, you won't say the person's name. He said, I'm not going to say his name is this officer, right? Then mom gets on, and you would think she would say, I'm not talking about that dude. He's irrelevant. He's not worth my time. I'm not talking about this guy you talking about either. Why would she say Brandon Tatum? She put my full name out there. And in my personal opinion, she wants people who hate me to come out and know who I am and search me and do all that other stuff, but refuse to address specific things that they're saying, that I'm saying. And they have never addressed some of the things that the boys have said. You have not heard them address the phone thing. You have not addressed them because Warren said that he told Nolan's mother that he had the cell phone and the keys. They have not said that he lied about it. They won't even talk about it. It came up on Chris Cuomo, and you guys will see that shortly. It came up on Chris Cuomo, and they pivoted. They didn't even address what Cuomo said. They just pivoted to something else. All right, continue.
I respect that. And that's the right answer for everybody, I believe. And I feel like, because I mentioned him, I'm like, why did I even mention him? Because he doesn't deserve a platform.
No, he does not.
So let's talk about the people, the young men that he's been interviewing. They're saying they're his best friends. Some of them you said that you don't know. One of them even said, "Oh, Nolan would be outraged by the way his parents are handling this." And I'm like, "Wait, what? Like, why on earth would somebody go on and say that about a grieving family?" But
again, distraction. We're not even going to address them or that man. We only want the truth. Again, at the end of the day, I'm going to say it like I've been saying it. The only question we have is what happened to Nolan. That's what we need to know. That's it. That's all.
When you talk about all the...
Oh, I'm talking about Mama. I got a question for you. With all due respect, why then, if you want to know what happened to Nolan, did your attorney not talk to me before I ever talked to the other side? All right, we passed that point. How come when Nicole or Ashley reached out to you via text, which she showed me, which we posted online, that you didn't respond to Warren's mother to even talk to her and get any information that she may have? The boys already have been investigated by law enforcement. we will not know exactly what they said for a time period, which could be a long time. I don't know. They got to go to grand jury and everything. So we will never know what they said to the police unless you talk to them directly. Why, if you want to know what happened to your son, would you talk to the people that last seen him alive? You're saying they saw him alive last. They're reaching out to you and saying, we want to talk. Let's have a conversation. But instead, you guys refuse to talk to them, refuse to talk to me, and then get online and push stuff that you have to later redact because you could have talked to them first and cleared it up, talked to their attorneys and cleared it up. You could have gotten all the boys' statements that have been compiled before the police put it out in the public so you can have a clear perspective before you go out in the public. But they did not do it. You know what they did? The first thing they did before they talked to any parent, any person involved, before they talked to anybody, they went and got Benjamin Crump. And they went and got Benjamin Crump, and what are they doing? The day that their son is put into the ground, they go get his estate, establish an estate, and then prepare to sue. Now, if you don't know what happened and you have not made a determination, all you want to know is what happened, then why are you prepping to sue people? You're going to sue them for what? I'm not prepping to sue anybody. I'm not acting like I know exactly what happened to Nolan. I'm just taking the information that's presented to me and saying, this is what they're saying. They show evidence of this. What do the other people got to say? But y'all already talking about suing people, already getting the state in his name the day he's put in arrest on his funeral. Because you're already looking at suing people in a lawsuit, and when you don't even know yet what happened to your son. But what's really happened is they already made up in their mind that they're going to blame these white boys. And so anybody saying anything to the contrary of what they're pursuing, they say, oh, I don't want to hear from this person. Oh, that person is illegitimate. Oh, my son wasn't friends with these boys. He wasn't friends with them? Maybe you just wasn't aware that he was friends with them, but according to social media and Instagram and photos and him staying the night over their house and him leaving his car at their house and him going out to Horn Island with them, he's not their friend? Well, then who is his friend? And why wasn't he hanging out with them and not these white boys when he's at home 3 or 4 days a week? So they all just made this up. Hey, I'm not there. I wasn't there. All right, let him finish.
The father of one of the young men who's been speaking out has put up a $50,000 reward reportedly. What do you think of that, Ben or Elmore or Christine?
Yeah, we are happy with anybody who wants to share the objective to get into the truth of what happened to Nolan Wells. So we applaud it and we say, yeah, let's all work together to get answers because as we've said continuously down limit, adamantly, somebody saw something, somebody knows something. I mean, and that's what you want, are answers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that was true, then his dad put up a $50,000 thing. Why don't you talk to him? Why don't you ring them and give them a phone call? You're saying y'all all going for no. Why don't you call the man and talk to him and see what he know? Instead of putting out fake information about his child, saying that his child must have been involved, sharing his picture all over the internet with no information. Then saying that he must have got into a fight when the coach, Nolan's coach, said that wasn't his voice on the thing. And you can't tell me that his parents don't know that that little boat scuffle wasn't their son's voice. But yet they let Benjamin Crump put that on the internet to frame it as if these white boys must have done something to him. You want unity, but you're not talking to nobody and you just making up lies. If you talk to these boys, if they at least attempted to talk to these boys, they'll know who was on the boat. And instead of listening to a doctored phone call with a made-up transcript, they could go and talk to each boy and say, well, what did you say then? Is that you on a thing? Okay, what did you say? Is that you? Well, what did you actually say? Is that you? What did you say? Okay. They're saying that they said this. Oh, they told this to the police. then maybe we can chill a little bit on the accusations until we get more evidence. But that's not what they want. Let me just real quickly debunk a few things and let you guys know how I even got involved in this in the first place. And I'm going to demand an apology for some of these people who are out here lying on my name, including DL, some of these other fools, Benjamin Crump. They're all lying to you guys and being disingenuous about my position in this. First and foremost, let me show you guys evidence that I reached out to Benjamin Crump before I ever heard from Nicole, Warren, any of these people. I didn't even hear from them. I had no idea that they even wanted to talk to me. They messaged us, and I'll show you the email here in a second, but they messaged us on a communication thing. I forget what is it called? Contact form. We reached out to Benjamin Crump and them first, and they refused to talk to me. Let me show you the email. I think we got to pull it up right here. I'm gonna read it to you. It says, "Dear Media Relations Team," and this is directly at press@bencrump.com. And the reason we know this is his email because they responded to us after the 5th time, claiming that they didn't want to do any interviews, yet they went on Cuomo and they also went on Don Lemon just recently. But let me read you what we said, and you tell me, is this reasonable, fair, and that this should be reasonable for them to at least respond to us the first 4 times. All right, this is the first thing that we said. We said, "Dear Media Relations Team, I hope that you're doing well. I'm reaching out on behalf of the Officer Tatum," and this is my show director reaching out to them, reaching out on behalf of the Officer Tatum show to invite Benjamin Crump, or attorney Ben Crump, to join Brandon for a discussion regarding the Nolan Wells case. The Officer Tatum show reaches millions of viewers each month across YouTube, podcast platforms, and social media, with a combined audience of more than 3 million subscribers and followers. Given the public interest surrounding this case, we believe our audience would benefit from hearing Mr. Crump's perspective directly. We believe our audience wants to hear from Benjamin Crump and his perspective, to give him the same opportunity, the same dignity to present to you guys just as well as I gave the boys that reached out to us. Let me continue. Officer Tatum values respectful conversations and welcomes dialogue with guests from a variety of backgrounds and viewpoints. He would appreciate the opportunity to give Mr. Crump a platform to speak directly to his audience and share his thoughts on the case. The interview would be conducted via video call, last approximately 30 minutes, and we are happy to work around Mr. Crump's schedule to accommodate his availability. Please let us know if there's any interest in coordinating an appearance. Thank you for your time and consideration. Grant put his stuff in there. They know it's coming from me. We have an official email where they can attach the domain to legitimacy on our show. So there's no Gmail or nothing like that. We have an official email. They responded to us, just so you know, on the 5th try and said they don't want to interview after they've seen 4 attempts. And that is proving, go back, let's put the date out there for people so they know that we are clearly telling you the truth. July the 16th at 9:30 a.m. Now let's go to the first time we got anything from Warren's stepmother. Let's go to that. So my executive assistant reached out or sent the message to Grant, my show director and producer. She said, "Hi team, I received this last night via our event forms," which is really not the form that a person would reach out to us on. They would reach out to us on a contact form, but this is the events form. It says, "Not sure if this is legitimate, but assume something we should follow up on. Please advise." So she sent the screenshot, which we redacted because we don't want anybody's personal information out there. It was a screenshot of the form and the contact information from Warren's stepmother. Then my executive assistant, who is incredible and absolutely brilliant, did her due diligence and said, from what I see online, she is indeed the stepmother of one of the boys involved in this case. And we put her name in there, that she's Ashley. My producer, show director, who's incredible at his job, said, "Calling her now." What time is this? This was sent to us at 9:33 a.m. on the 17th, which is nearly a full 24 hours. And then we see Grant here at 10:22 a.m. said, I'm going to call her or call her now. Now let's go to the call log. This is Miss Cole in our in Grant's phone. This is the phone call that occurred on 7/17/2026 at 10:23, which is a minute after he told my executive assistant that he would give her a call. The call lasted 8 minutes, as you can see. Now, how in the world are people out here saying that Officer Tatum only picked one side? Officer Tatum was just going out and looking out for the white man and looking out for the boys. I have never reached out to them to talk to them at all. I did reach out to Benjamin Crump. They ended up reaching out to me. That's why I accepted. I laid the foundation on how it started. Benjamin Crump never responded to me. They reached out to me. I said, okay, I'll give you guys an opportunity. Let's talk. Let's, and I had to vet them and make sure that they weren't sitting there lying to me and making up stories on my platform. And they had to vet me to make sure that I'm a legitimate podcaster, that I'm going to give the boys at least credence if they're on my show telling their story. We fly out there. We had no promise of an interview with none of the kids. The first day we got there, and I said this on TMZ, the first day we got there, we were invited to a dinner. We sat down at a dinner. There were a few boys, their parents, and I think one of the attorneys was there, and we sat down and had a dinner. They did not want to discuss details of the case with us at the dinner. We did, however, because one of the parents was zealous enough to say, look, man, just look at maybe 2 things that the person had, because they were eager to be like, they're lying about our kids. Look at this, they lying. And so we had maybe like a couple items like that occurred during the dinner. And during the dinner, and people try to act like these families are, one of the moms was crying because of what this had done to the community. Not only for her children, but for Nolan. They knew Nolan. They were friends with Nolan. She's crying at the fact that this has all happened when this was Nolan's friends. And so that's how the dinner went. Moving forward, we went to Horn Island. We got more information from the other boys that were accused initially. I didn't talk to every single person that's involved in this. I only talked to 4 boys, 5 boys if you add Tristan. So the 4 boys they originally accused, we talked to them, had some conversations. We went to Horn Island. Some things were described. They didn't want to be on camera. They didn't want to give us a statement, and I was fine with that. And then when I say statement, meaning on camera, then we went to the Airbnb that we had scheduled. We set up the thing. Eventually, they said, okay, Warren is going to give an interview. We said, all right, we already ready for him. Come give the interview. Warren was there. His lawyer was there. And then there was other people that was in Warren's team that was in another room separate from where we did the podcast. And I would argue they couldn't hear because it was way on the other side of the Airbnb. So with that being said, we did the interview with Warren. Before we started the interview, Tristan came over. I talked to Tristan and Warren before all that, and they were just talking. I don't know what happened, so I'm not interjecting anything. I'm just listening. And Tristan is saying a lot of incredible things that Warren was not privy to because Warren and Tristan weren't on the same boat. They didn't come in and they didn't leave together. However, they are friends that share a same community friend group. Let's move forward. We interview Warren. Interview is over. We come back and we were like, okay, none of the other boys want to come interview, which I would have liked for all of them to be there at the same time because they all got different pieces of the puzzle to put together because they were in different places at different times in part. Then we go, let's just interview Tristan while he's here. He's here. He seems like a very genuine young man. Let's just see what he has to say. I could not rehearse any of these things because I don't know none of what happened. I've only heard Benjamin Crump them side. So I'm asking basic questions. If you watch the interview, I'm just asking basic questions of them. Like, well, do you know how did you get the phone? Why was his phone left on the boat? I'm asking basic questions that a journalist would ask of them, and they gave me an answer. Now, I will say this. I verified nearly everything that they were telling me before I did the interview, because I was not going to go down to Mississippi and interview somebody that I haven't vetted that will sit on my podcast and tell a flat out lie. Let me just put this in perspective. I was not going to accept Warren or anybody to get on my podcast and say, I didn't have nothing to do with anything. Blah, 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 blah. And then after the podcast, the investigation yielded that they were primary suspects in killing Nolan Wells. You think I'm stupid enough to have somebody on there saying all that on my platform? I don't need the interview. I'm already doing my thing. I had already been talking about the case before talking to anybody, and my coverage is premier. So when they were talking to me and giving me information before the show and at Horn Island and stuff, they showing me. I say, well, where's do you got evidence of this stuff? Yeah, right here. This is when I called Nolan's mom. Here's when I called her twice. Here's when I called the Coast Guard. Here's us coordinating together to go search for and helping the search for Nolan the next day. Here's who came with me. Here's all of our testimony. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow. We went out to Horn Island on a boat. They said, this is where we docked from. They showed me video of everybody getting on that boat, which we shared. And then we get on a boat, we go out there. We went the same path that they went. We went to Horn Island. They told me exactly where they believed they were at and what was going on. They showed me video of them there and what was going on, amateur photos or amateur video, which we shared on social media. So y'all have access to all of that, or at least most of what they had. Some things it had other people in it, we couldn't show it because they are not associated and they don't deserve to be doxxed. And then we didn't have their permission to share it. And then we go back and they explain the bilge pump and all that other stuff and what was happening and how they were sinking. And they were explaining all these boat terms that everybody that have ever ridden a boat or advocates of boat, you know exactly what they're talking about. But they were saying how I was taking on water and how I was water up to the batteries and all of this other stuff. And that they had to be towed out to get on plane, which means that once they get to a certain point, the water can begin to be dumped out. And as they keep going, it pulls the water out the back and all this other stuff that I have no idea because I never rid on a boat except that one time. So they're explaining all this and they're explaining where they got towed to and that they were here. And then once they got up to speed, they could go here. And then you could see on the GPS tracking in the Life 360 is that they were towed at a slow speed. And then all of a sudden they pick up normal speed. And that's because they had fixed the issue and they ended up going where they needed to go. They showed me where they all were going to congregate at and have a party with Nolan and everybody else. They showed me all of these different components. And then we go do an interview. And there was nothing in the interview, I think, that caught me by surprise because they had to show evidence to a lot of the things that they were being accused of. Lawyer was sitting right there in the room. So people don't understand that aspect of it. Now, I've said enough.